All right, it's Fantasy Football Now on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media. I'm Jeff Fiddall. Follow me on the X at It Happens. He is Chad Rake. Follow him on the X at Chad Ocho. Rako. FantasySports.com is our website. You can go there and check out what we have going on that site. And then also, the Fantasy Sports app's available on Apple and Android. Download that for free. We've got round-the-clock program, a bunch of great shows from all over the country. And then also the Fantasy Sports Facebook group. Interact with hosts and other fans on that as well. Chad, we're doing this on a Saturday morning as we lead into week 3 slate. How the hell are you today, my friend?
I am doing well. I won like $350 yesterday on home run props in baseball. So it's always a good feeling. Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Got to rake it in while I can with baseball. It's going to be the end. And then hopefully football will start being profitable as well. Yeah, I mean that's the plan is that win a little bit on baseball and then do football. So we'll see how that works.
So the Thursday night game, the 49ers dominated the Giants. Nothing good on the Giants side whatsoever. Daniel Jones was awful. The running game never got going without Saquon out there. And although I know it was a closer than the spread indicated kind of game going to the fourth quarter, it was never in doubt. The 49ers are going to win that game, even without Brandon Ayuk out there. But a big win for the 49ers. They look like one of the more dominant teams, but it just goes to show you Brock Purdy still very relevant as a fantasy quarterback. Deebo Samuel looked good as well. Then still the Christian McCaffrey train keeps on rolling on.
Yeah, I didn't realize he has scored in like every game for the Niners that he's played in. So again, like I was watching that game and the Niners could do whatever they want, and they just decided we're just going to run the clock. And they could have passed all over. And they probably could have scored 50, but they were just, hey, let's just run, not get too fancy. Let's just dominate the ball. And again, it was a little bit closer because the Giants ended up Breida got that touchdown, which that salvaged if you picked up Breida any kind of fantasy day for him, but they did not look good. And the Niners, we figured that. That's what it was. 12. I think it was 10.5 point spread. That was no doubt. I won that. I had 10.5, giving up 10.5.
And I think
spread
was 10.5.
Yeah, it was 10.5. Yeah, and then I had I think Kittle over yardage or something. So that was just a little play, but yeah, I mean it's what we thought the Niners were going to be. And so even without Ayuk, they look good. That Bell rookie from Michigan looked pretty solid too. So they just got the talent around him, and I think that's what it is with Purdy. Is he's in a great system to be in. I don't think he would be relevant as a quarterback if he was in most other teams.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that very much a system-based kind of quarterback. That's not a knock on him. It's just Shanahan's really good at, I think, putting people in position to succeed based on their skill set. And I don't think he has this is my offense and you're going to fit it. I think he does, this is what your skill set is, and I'm going to make it fit into this system.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And again, they having Deebo and Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey helps.
Yeah, no doubt. Yes, no doubt about it. Okay, so there's so many injuries going into tomorrow's games that we got to deal with, and you got obviously the Nick Chubb major injury. Barkley has already missed the game. Eckler's been ruled out.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. Anthony Richardson's not going to play. It looks like Bryce Young's not going to play as well. The Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, gets another shot there with Carolina. And it's troubling if you spent high picks on running backs because of Barkley, because of Chubb, because of Eckler. I mean, those are 3 of the top guys that got drafted, 3 of the top 4 running backs that probably got drafted. And it's not like they've got these real capable replacements coming in. There's not a prime Kareem Hunt coming in after them. So, I mean, it's like you're scrambling if you own those guys.
You are, and you throw Derrick Henry in there dealing with a foot issue. It looks like he's going to play, and again, that's where all the zero running back folks are, patting themselves on the back saying that's the way to go. It's fine, but it's tough if you have running backs, especially if you've got to play 2 and you get a couple flex spots, which is why a lot of times people are trying to go, hey, just try to load up on receivers for flex. Because they'll be more available, but it's tough because if you try to pick somebody up, most of these backups aren't what the starter is. Like I said, it looks like if you got Kyron Williams, that was kind of a huge pickup for you. But none of these other guys, like I think Jerome Ford's fine. He's got a tough matchup this week. But like you said, Breida looked bad. I just don't think Joshua Kelly's really that good. We've seen enough of him. But he's got a pretty good matchup with the Vikings. So if you picked him up, I don't mind him starting because I think that game's going to be over probably 55 points. So, and the Vikings really aren't that good on defense. So Kelly's one I wouldn't mind starting this week. But yeah, if your running backs got hurt, especially if you ended up going like Chubb, Henry, or something, it would give me trouble. Even Aaron Jones, I don't know if he's going to play this week either.
Right.
And that's going to be a lingering hammy issue. So, and then, you got Sun God too with the receiver side, he's dealing with something. And again, a couple other injuries, but it's mostly been the running backs are going to be troublesome this year.
And the thing is, anymore, it used to be handcuffs a big deal. Handcuffs not as big a deal anymore for the same position, just because if you look at it, last year, I mean, when you had in Dallas with Zeke and Pollard last couple of years, that was a decent, either guy could be startable. Yeah. Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison, not so much, although Madison was good when he played. But there's not, like this year, it's beyond Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Other than that, there's not a lot of opportunities where you look at it and say, you know what, both these running backs are startable some weeks. It doesn't happen that much anymore. The handcuffs kind of gone away.
Yeah, like I said, there's a few spots, like I think Gibbs and Montgomery. But back in the day is because we had more workhorse running backs. So you thought, okay, if this guy goes down, if they had a decent backup, you might as well handcuff them.
Yeah.
The only thing with that is where if your guy doesn't go down, then you got a roster spot just wasted on his backup that you never use. So you always got to watch it. Like I think even Gibson and Robinson.
Brian Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, like that. Like if you got teams that are going to use both, but then it's you don't want both because you're not going to start both of them. And then you got to figure out who's going to get the hot hand, game script, that kind of thing. So I've always been like, I was a handcuff guy early on, and then I've kind of got away from it just like, and then really taking chances late on younger, like rookie running backs, like Tajay Spears looks like, if Henry does miss time, he looks pretty good. And that team likes to run. So yeah, that's it. So, the handcuffs is different. You just got to hope you just drafted. And that's why I say, if you're drafting your bench, just load up on running backs, receivers, and just hopefully that you get somebody that's going to play later in the year rather than, a backup quarterback, backup tight end, backup kicker, defense, those kind of things.
Anthony Richardson was off to a great start last week before going out with concussion. A couple of rushing touchdowns early, looked really good. Second straight week, he had to leave with an injury, and now he's not going to play this week. The Gardner Minshew show takes over. Richardson holds back by week 4. Mentioned Bryce Young. He's going to miss a game or two, maybe. Burrow, look, if you're a Burrow owner, you're in a tough spot because he's playing Monday night.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're playing
the Rams.
So Stafford may be available. I don't know the way he's looked, and you don't want to go in with Jake Browning. I don't think as your quarterback.
Sure.
So hopefully you pick somebody up, but really I don't know. Like maybe take a chance on Dalton, but I don't even like that with that offense. So you're tough if you have Burrow and you don't have another quarterback because you got to wait till Monday night. And I mean, I think what you have to do then is just pick up Browning and hope Burrow plays.
Right.
Because I don't think there's any, like, Dalton's not a better option unless there's somebody out there that you.
Right. I mean, the other Monday night game is the Tampa Bay, Philadelphia. And I can't believe Baker Mayfield's available in many leagues anymore. But, if you somehow had lucked into him, that's an option to hold on and wait. I am in a situation with one of my teams. I've got Burrow and I've got Stafford, so I can wait. Stafford's the backup. But yeah, you're right. Stafford's the one to go out and grab if you're going to wait. If you've got a decent option at all, though, I would look to play that guy maybe on Sunday just because, Burrow's trending to play. It'd be stupid for them to play him, I think, just because if they get the win and he goes down again, it could be a longer-term injury than at that point, then your playoffs are shot. You have a better chance of 0-3 making the playoffs with a healthy Burrow than 1-2, and you miss Burrow another few weeks. So I expect they probably won't play him, but we'll see on that one. But the injuries are, then also the Bryce Young thing. So there's the 3 quarterback injuries to look at as well. So as we are going into the games on Sunday, do you who are some players you're looking at, do you think are maybe going to have better games and they might be able to outperform what they've done lately?
Well, it's kind of funny, like, to think, like, Justin Jefferson. He hasn't scored a touchdown, but he's had over 150 yards in 2 games.
Right.
So, I mean, he still get you points, but you throw in a couple of touchdowns, it's that much better. He's in a good matchup. If you're talking about people that are going to kind of overperform, I think we're kind of waiting for Trevor Lawrence to really step it up. I mean, in that first game, he had a couple of touchdowns to Ridley, but he hasn't been big. And last week, we thought that game was going to shoot out against Kansas City, and it wasn't.
No.
They're in a great spot against Houston. I think they can score at will. I just don't know if it's going to be an ETN game, but I think Trevor Lawrence is in a really good bounce back spot if you have him to play him. Other than that, I think Seattle's in a pretty decent spot too against Carolina.
One of the guys I'm looking at, Chad, is I would say JSN was the one I was going to mention. JSN, Jack Smith and Jigba, who I think he's not getting a whole lot of not getting in the end zone, obviously, but this is a chance I think this week maybe for him to finally get into the end zone in this game for Seattle.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they can score. JSN, he's on the field. I think they're just kind of ease him back in, but I think he's going to be a big part of this offense going forward. And I think really the Dallas offense, I know Pollard had 2 touchdowns the other day, but they really haven't had, have to do much. They're playing Arizona. So I think, CeeDee Lamb, I think could have a big game, Jake Ferguson, those type of things. And just because I'm a homer and I'm kind of hopefully buying the hype of that Fields is just going to be F it and play.
Right.
This could be this is a huge week for the Bears. If they look good, if they win, it would be amazing. Because spoiler, I took them in our little 5-thing pick 'em.
Oh, the cover 5.
Yeah, just to see what happens. But I think Fields, he could he could go off because that Chiefs defense isn't great if they can keep Chris Jones intact. So I could look for him maybe to have a pop-off game after all the issue. Because if they come out and they lose like 37-11 or something,
right?
I don't know what's going to happen with Bears fans.
It's tough. We know about the disappointing guys, and that was one of the guys who in most of my drafts I did. I pretty much stayed away from Fields, and I would usually opt to go instead with Herbert or Lawrence or somebody like that versus Fields if they were all on the board at the same time. And I know Fields is ranked higher by a lot of in a lot of preseason rankings, but I didn't. It's always hard for me to have faith in a running quarterback in consecutive seasons. And that's what he was last year. That's where his value was as a runner. And so I looked at it and said, do I believe he'll have another good running season? The over 1,000 yards, I just couldn't get myself to that point. So I stayed away from him. So I lucked out in that regard. But God, he's got to be better than this, doesn't he?
I would think so. And he hasn't even looked he's made some bad plays. He's holding on the ball too long. That offensive line is still atrocious. But he has more yards through 2 games this year than he did through 4 games last year. So I think there's some progress. I think more helps. I just think it's scheming, and he's just got to just play. Sometimes you just got to let your best players just go play. If you make a mistake, no big deal. Look at Brett Favre. He made mistakes all the time. I think, I stay away from him for most leagues. I have him in 1. But yeah, because you're just relying so much on the running. Because I even thought, even with Moore, I just didn't know if his passing would get to the 32 touchdown mark. But
right.
Hopefully if you took a guy like Fields, you maybe paired another quarterback later, like a Brock Purdy or somebody like that, even Pickett and those types of things. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that game could be a shootout. I think the Chiefs are just, if you have DFS, I would just play all the Chiefs.
Yeah, exactly. It's I look at it the same way. So we're 2 weeks in now, and we mentioned a couple of guys like Fields that you maybe worry about a little bit, but when you talk about guys we're going to push the panic button on, one of the players for me is Darren Waller, just because that Giants offense, how bad it's looked. Now, granted, it's been a bit fractured. Waller was dinged up going into week 1. Week 2, they have the game with Arizona, and the offense was just awful in the first half. And then, week 3, you go against San Francisco without Barkley on the team. So I'm not sure if I'm ready to fully push the panic button yet, but I am very disappointed because I was doing somersaults and cartwheels, but that hasn't happened for a long time. But I was doing virtual somersaults and cartwheels when I was able to draft Darren Waller where I was in a lot of different leagues. So I am concerned about Waller, but I still think he's going to bounce back.
Yeah, I agree. And I was trying to look at their schedule. It's, they got some tough matchups. The next couple are at home against Seattle, and then at Miami, at the Bills, home against the Commanders, and then home against the Jets, and then at the Raiders and the Cowboys. So he's got some decent matchups in there. I think they're targeting him. I just think he has up on the end zone because that Giants offense just can't move the ball because they've had some brutal matchups. And then you take Barkley out of the mix. They're not defenses aren't concerned about the run. So I think he'll still get targets, but I think it's going to be a disappointing year, at least early on, until Barkley comes back healthy, because we expected Waller to be getting, 5-7 receptions, 50 yards, and, be in the red zone target, but they haven't really, been able to do that.
Am I an idiot / hypocrite for like believing that Waller can bounce back, but not believing Daniel Jones can?
Well, you're an idiot hypocrite, I think, regardless. Right. So, but like that's one of those things where you can, because you could say like, because really last year, if you look at Daniel Jones, a lot of his fantasy success was from he rushed for over 700 yards.
Right.
And I didn't think he was going to be able to do that again this year. He can get out and run, but they don't really design runs for him. And he's one of those guys where, if you get in the red zone, Waller's a great target. So, Waller could have his games because they don't have any other wide receivers. That's the other thing. They don't have any other really good wide receiver. So it's not like Jones is going to be dropping 300 a week.
Right.
So you were taking the best passing option on that team. So you could have Waller do well and even Daniel Jones not be a top 10, 12 quarterback. So it wasn't ridiculous to think that just because there was no other really good passing options.
Anybody you're pushing the panic button on early on here?
Probably a lot of guys. Alexander Madison's one now with Cam Akers going there.
Yeah.
I didn't have the only one I have him in is in our league, but I think you're a little bit nervous because you really thought Cook's gone. It's his backfield. They didn't bring anybody in. I did not think any of their backups were any good. But then he didn't look good in the first two games. However, they've only rushed the ball 23 times, I believe, in the first two games. So they're like last in rush attempts. But then you bring Cam Akers in, and you think, well, he's going to have to take a minute to acclimate himself. But the offense coordinator used to be there in L.A., so he knows the offense a little bit.
Right.
And if you ask me, I think Cam Akers is probably the better running back. So I think he eventually takes over. And I think it's going to be even probably a 50-50 split more than what the Cook Madison was in. But if you have Madison, I'd be a little bit nervous on that. I'm trying to look and see some teams like where, because as you know, we didn't have a show rundown here this week, so right. It's kind of like I'm just trying to look at some teams here.
Let me ask you this about the Browns. So they signed Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt, there's a reason he didn't. I'm not sure what the reason was. He never signed with anybody until just now. He visited a bunch of places and never had deals, and we never really got the true story about it. It's like, is it because Kareem Hunt didn't want to go, or because the team said, you know what, we think you're not probably as good as you think you are? So what the answer was also depends on where I value him with the Browns. You know what I mean? Like if it was because he just wanted the right situation, that's one thing. But if it's because teams looked at him and said, you know what, you're not the same Kareem Hunt, we don't want you. If that's the case, then I don't think he presents a true threat to Ford. But if it's the other way, then I think he does.
Yeah, I think it's the first one. I think the Browns are like, listen, we don't want to pay him. He probably wanted to see if he can go somewhere and be the RB1.
Right.
And it just never happened. And it's probably because people are like, but he's like probably 27, 28. So he's a
28,
ladder,
I think,
yeah, latter end anyway. So he's not a young guy.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't have as much miles as some of these guys, but I think a lot of teams saw him as like, I don't think he could be our one. And the Browns, I don't think just didn't want to pay him. And they knew they could keep Ford cheaper, and they liked Ford. So I think what's going to happen is I think Kareem Hunt is going to come back and play the same role he did when Chubb was there. And they're going to let Ford be the main guy, bring Hunt in on passing downs. Now, if something happens to Ford or if Hunt really looks good, then that could change things. But I don't think he's a huge threat for Ford right now.
Staying in Cleveland, which is something that no one ever likes to do, but staying in Cleveland,
right.
A lot of times in our drafts we did this year, Chad, we were sitting there staring at Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott ranked right next to each other. And usually Watson was ranked higher. And I went Prescott exclusively. If that was my choice, and I had to make that choice at that time, I went Prescott exclusively, and damn it, I'm glad I did because Watson's been so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same way. I was like Prescott. I just figured he had better weapons, better offense. He's proven, and like we thought, okay, a full off season with the team, this and that, but he has looked really bad, and then he starts pushing refs. It's in a weird situation in Cleveland because if they keep being this bad, they have so much money invested in Watson.
Yeah,
but they have a guy as a backup that's a rookie that looked pretty good in preseason. And so at what point do you say, hey, he's looked bad, and I don't care how much money we have, we just got to see what this guy is. But then the problem is, like, I don't think they can get out of his contract. And if he looks bad, he gets benched for a rookie. Nobody, I want to say nobody, but there's some stupid team that would do it. But
he loses all credibility in the locker room. He's benched for a rookie, and the rookie outperforms him. And then I really think they are stuck with it at that point. I don't think anybody wants to touch Deshaun Watson at all. No. And so it's a tough situation for Cleveland because, especially if they lose a game this week to the Titans, they fall to 1-2. It's tough for them to come back from that with Chubb being gone for the season.
Yeah, I think at some point though they have to, like, if they start off like 1-7, I think you probably have to see what you have. But then, like you said, you can't do anything. It was just a stupid contract to begin with anyway, so they deserve it for paying him that much money, and those types of things. But yeah, it's tough, and I don't think Watson was really targeted much in fantasy, and most people probably picked him up as a backup or just like in a super flex just to get a guy. So I don't think he's hurting a lot of teams. But if you spent on Amari Cooper or something, hoping that connection would be there, it could hurt. But I don't think a lot of the Browns were drafted too early outside of Chubb.
A couple of guys to look at this week, I think. It looks like Gus Edwards is the only viable running back option in Baltimore this week. So that's a good one to target, I think, as far as running backs go. If you're looking like in DFS, you can probably get him rather cheap as well. And then the other guy, and I can't believe we're still talking about this guy, but Taysom freaking Hill in New Orleans. And now you've got Jamal Williams out. And I know they've got other running back options there, but Taysom Hill, though, is still that damn Swiss Army knife who goes in there and poaches touchdowns.
Yeah, I think this is the week to pick up Taysom Hill, hope that they have to play him because all they have is Kendra Miller, because Kamara comes back next week. And
we got Tony Jones. And
they do have Tony Jones. Back. That's right. Yeah, because he scored
a couple of touchdowns also.
Yeah. So, but I think they'll throw Hill in. And, especially inside the 20, inside the 5, they'll put him at quarterback and do that little push thing if they need to. So I think Hill is viable this week. I think once Kamara comes back, I don't think they'll use him as much, except maybe in short yardage situations, or they have a package deal where they have him play quarterback just to run. So I don't mind picking him up for this week. They play Green Bay. And I love Gus Edwards this week just because he's the only viable option there. And I also think if he's still available in the league, like I think Jerick McKinnon can be big this week because I don't think Pacheco plays, and they're playing the Bears. So I think McKinnon, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think McKinnon might get more of the opportunities there. So those are guys I like. Even Joshua Kelly this week too, for the Chargers.
Do you have another Bears rant, or was that it earlier?
It's just the same rant. Like, why are we hiring offensive coordinators with no offensive coordinator experience? Why is Luke Getsy wasting time having Justin Fields watching tape on Aaron Rodgers rather than watching film to understand defenses? Like the whole, like, if you look at every coach we've hired except for maybe Lovie Smith, it's the exact same guy: Dick Joran, Mark Trestman, Nagy. It's
Mark
just
Trestman,
the whole line.
That's right. Yeah.
It's horrible. And even the offensive coordinators, like, none of the offensive coordinators had any real offensive coordinating experience except for Adam Gase, but he was the offensive coordinator when he had Peyton Manning as a quarterback, so that doesn't count.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of organizational stuff. I just hope we have another season like last year. We end up with 2 top 5 picks and we get, Marvin Harrison Jr. and the best offensive tackle, and then go from there.
So I'll put you on the spot here. You can either do a DFS lineup for us right now if you have one ready, or you can save it and do like a YouTube thing if you want to tomorrow. What do you feel better doing?
I'll do one. I already got one. You know,
got one. Let's hear it.
I got one in there. Yeah. So let me pull it up.
$1 million one here again.
No, I can't remember. I don't think it's in the $1 million one.
But it could be.
I mean, it could be if I wanted to.
You could use it there. Yes.
You could. I mean, it's $1 million. I just didn't want to spend $20 on a 150 max for that. So I just did I think it was like a $12 single entry. So I'm going with it. It's going to be chalk. The Chargers Vikings game as a stack. So I got Herbert at quarterback. I got Gus Bus and McKinnon at running back. I've got Mike Williams, and the sneaky one is Parham Jr. at tight end. So it's a double stack with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Running it back with Justin Jefferson. Throw Tyreek Hill in there. And then I had to throw in Rashee Rice. I had to throw in some Chiefs somewhere. I almost went with the Chiefs stack, but it was just so hard to try to get that with some of the guys I want. And then I had the Commanders defense. So
okay,
that's what it is. We'll see.
All right. So make your $1 million and make sure you find Chad then on the X and thank him for that.
Right.
He is at Chad Ochorinco on the X. I'm at That Happens. Fantasy Sports app, Apple and Android. Go download it. All this stuff will be on there. Great. It's a great day of college football today. If anything breaks, Chad and I, one of us will hop onto like YouTube Short tomorrow and send it out to you as well. Chad, best of luck to you this weekend, and don't forget the little people when you win the $1 million.
You too. Exactly. I'll buy you lunch.
All right, there we go.